Where's
talking
Brian
to me?
at? I was talking to everybody. Where's Brian at? He's going to be so upset with you today.
Well, I mean, summer came for a few days.
Yeah.
Then we skipped fall and went right back to winter.
Well, we've got a pretty good bit of warm weather. It was like in the 80s here today, so I think we're pretty good.
We hit low 90s. I think it was Tuesday afternoon through Thursday midday, and yeah, it was warm. And
Well, hello
then
there,
we
Jack.
fell off a cliff. It snowed. There's snow on the ground again.
I'm sorry, dude. I'm sorry. Y'all, y'all just got way too much snow and stuff up there. I do not understand it.
Well, this is an abnormal year. Top third on record. Not that it's not abnormal for it to snow this late. We've had other years where mid to late April we're still getting some pretty bad snow. But enough of that. I won't be seeing it in a few days.
Yeah. Well, that's good. Yeah, because you'll be Georgia bound in a few days, heading down this way.
Yep.
So that's good. All right, everybody. Jack, hello to you there, sir. Jimmy, Carolina, Florida. Oh, look at the Southeast representing. Chris, he ain't got no snow over there in the land down under.
Yeah.
How's it going over there this morning there, Chris? Minnesota. Yeah. There's your neighbor up there, Steve. Y'all
Yeah, we're all
still getting
commiserating.
snow. So I saw you put the video out on the ASMR earlier.
Yep.
Did you get it working to your liking?
Yeah. It was running really well. Kind of similar to what you found out is that it seems like a real hot 10 watt. I actually had to run some of my material tests more than once because I hadn't topped them out at my average 10 watt rating. So that was pretty cool to see. Definitely liking that cable chain, drag chain stuff on there. That I really wish more lasers came with that instead of the dangly cables and such. You know, that's a huge frustration making sure those are out of the way and such. But
Yeah. Well, you did have the same findings with the machine as far as you had to change the settings on it too, right?
yeah, I had to fix up the file from the beginning, but once that's in there, it ran really well. Didn't have any problems. Now I don't know about you. I love limit switches on lasers. They're not required, but they make things easier. But I don't use them other than the first time I start up, and then I usually set in my machine settings to go to like the upper left corner. It gets it out of the way, and it parks it in a spot that I'm not going to bump it, and then it knows where it's at. Whereas rehoming, those limit switches on these hobby grade things, they can be a millimeter off every time they bump into that. So
Yeah.
that was another thing I set up, and I do that on all the lasers I set up anymore. So
Yeah. Well, that's the same thing I do. Like I said, the home, I do that home initially on the power up, and then after that, I operate from that park location. But yeah, and I recommend people to do that. If you don't do that, you might want to try it. Yeah, Chris, I'm getting the hang of all this camera stuff and having to set everything up. When I got in here, I had Steve fact check me, make sure you could read it and everything. But yeah, it's getting better. I mean, I've got me a checklist of everything to check from the audio inputs and outputs and virtual camera here, and here, and it's a lot to keep up with, guys. It's a lot to keep up with. So, but I hope it works good. I see Steve's not doing the whole Atari 2600 stuff today, so I guess he got his network issues resolved. But
yeah, I don't know.
yeah,
I talked with some people in our neighborhood. Everybody was kind of having trouble with the same provider that past week, but it's been I'm not gonna say anything.
Yeah,
just gonna knock on some wood here.
Yeah, don't jinx yourself. Don't jinx yourself. Penny, he hasn't been to Americas yet. Steve, you want to give us an update on that?
Yeah, no. The event is actually next week, so I will be heading south this coming weekend. Going to be stopping by a little town in the middle of Alabama somewhere, hanging out for a little bit, and then heading on to that event. I am bringing at least one laser and some sort of enclosure. Going to be having a little fun with it. I'm going to try to set it up at the field that I'm at. It's a model airplane event, so that's actually why I originally got into CNCs and lasers, was creating parts for model airplanes and such. So might have some fun there, might have a video there. If the internet is nice enough, I might even just hop on live on my channel and say hey and show a little bit more about my other hobby and mixing it with laser stuff. But looking forward to that. Gonna try really hard not to bring the snowy weather with me, but could happen.
Yeah, it's middle of April. You're not going to bring that down here, I don't think. If you do, it's going to be very, very rare. Jim, I went ahead and got myself. I'm one of those type that I'll put something in my Amazon cart and I'll stare at it for a few days and take it out. And it was a camera that I had been basically putting in my cart, taking it out like every other month. It's the little DJI Pocket. And the reason I wanted it was I've got a GoPro, and GoPros, they're good for a lot of things. But and then I've got my Sony ZV-1 that I use for making my videos that are in the shop. But I wanted something I could take outside and walk around and use, when I go places. Like I said, Steve's planning on coming down, and we're gonna do some stuff and hopefully try to come up with some content. We'll try to see if I can't get Steve out of his element, maybe try to get him to taste some local cuisine while he's here, all that stuff. And so I wanted something to use to do that. And then I've got events coming up in June, like the whole month of June where I live. There's going to be an event in town every single weekend for the entire month of June. Some of those I'm going to be set up as a vendor, and then others I'm going to be just there hanging out, just videoing and trying to kind of bring you guys along and show you, what it looks like, what life in a small town looks like. If you're not familiar, some of you may be, but it's the DJI Pocket 2 Creator Bundle. And the only thing the difference between the Creator Bundle and the regular one is it comes with an external microphone so that you can put the little windsock on there and be away from the camera if you need to. It's just a lot easier to move that thing around and use a little small clip tripod versus having to lug the Sony around. So, but it's so far I like it. It's a learning curve, learning how to operate it. But it uses, me and Steve both have a DJI Mavic Pro drones, and it's the same as the camera on the drone. It controls similarly, has a lot of the same functions. You can actually set it to track you as you walk back and forth and stuff like that. So it was just, I wanted it, and it was cool, and so I got it. And I like it so far. Dennis, that's actually not really trophies. Those are all machines that when I get slammed, I'll put those guys to work. I've got a couple of them that's going to be leaving here. I've got a connection with the local high school STEM program where kids learn about lasers and robots and stuff like that. And I've got a couple of them that I'm getting an enclosure and a machine and everything together, and I'm going to donate to the school for them to use. They have a large CO2 laser, but they don't have any diodes up there. And I've talked to the teacher, and he said that would be something they'd be interested in. So I'm going to gift pack them some of those machines, but I keep those in case the ones I'm running go down, or if I got a table or something I need to do and I don't want to pull one out of an enclosure. But I had to put them up on the wall to get them out of the way. I'm limited on space. There's one. That's an interesting question with all the stuff we've been testing lately.
Yeah.
It depends. It depends. Is that this is one of those it depends situations, is it not?
Yeah, I'd agree. It depends on if you're looking for a specific reason. Um, that might shift the conversation one way or another. Uh, I think we've talked about this before. If you're just kind of dipping your toe in the water and want to experiment with it, I think right now the 10-watt market, there's some really good value lasers out there that will allow you to do a lot of engraving, but still start playing around with cutting and not be too limited in that as well. Um, but from there, it really kind of depends on how much you're willing to spend and if you have any specific features as far as size, working area, um, you know, compatibility with other things. That can all change the equation a little bit.
Yeah, as far as the 10-watt class, you're just like anything, guys. I mean, you can get it's kind of like a GMC truck and a Denali. You can get the GMC work truck and save a lot of money. Doesn't have all the bells and whistles, but for the most part, it'll do the job. And then you can roll out with the Denali, which sometimes those bells and whistles are a little more trouble than they're worth. Uh, as far as power and cutting ability, and like Steve said, all the extra stuff, the little Aesmer P1 has really impressed me so far. This longer that I've got back here, it's actually really nice, but it doesn't have limit switches. But as far as budget goes, that longer 10-watt is, I mean, it doesn't get much cheaper than that. So decide what your budget is. Decide what things that you gotta have. As far as if you've got to have air assist or if you've got to have this, and if you're going to do a lot of cutting, I definitely encourage you to work air assist and a good cutting surface, whether it be a honeycomb or something, into your purchase, like right out the gate. Because if you don't, you're not going to enjoy cutting stuff. So
Yeah, and we've talked before too. I would think this day and age for what you can get out there, an air assist, even if you're just engraving, pretty much you're going to want it. It's going to help with the longevity, and so I would make sure that I have, if I was shopping for a laser right now, I would make sure that hopefully it comes with one or there is an inexpensive option to add one on, and factor that into my price. That would probably be one of the required to have, along with, if you're cutting indoors, an enclosure and a way to vent it. So yeah, there's definitely ones out there. The most budget one that I recently reviewed was actually the video I dropped today. It's the Aesmer P1. They've got a good sale going on it right now, and from what I've seen, it's a lot of power in the laser for a 10-watt. It has limit switches. It comes with the air assist cone, but it doesn't come with an air pump, which those you have. You don't have to stick with their brand per se. It's nice to get things that match, but you can get many options for that. So short of that, I mean, if you know a guy that's going to let you loan one, sure. Otherwise, I would make sure it's probably from a company that maybe do a little research, make sure it's not their very first laser. Maybe if they've had a couple of lasers, so they're showing it's not just a one and done. Because I've seen that as well, where a company will, whether they're working with the manufacturer or not, they have a rebranded something. They sell out however many units, and then that company's gone, and then you might be stuck with a laser that works or a laser that has no support. So.
yeah, but if you do get that Aesmer P1, just a little waiver. There is a some changes needs to be done to the controller right out of the box unless they fixed it. But you can message me or Steve and we can send you the file. I've told Aesmer they need to change the programming to the controllers, but I don't know how many units they shipped out before I told them about it. Because I've had two people this past week message me that I had to send them my file. One of them was actually in like France or Germany or somewhere, and it fixed the machine, but they were really upset with the machine until they got it. So other than that, it's a good machine. My buddy Klein's using it, and he just did a job of tumblers because it comes with a roller and all that too. And he's using it right now, and he just turned out some tumblers with it, and it does a great job. It's an overpowered 10-watt, to be honest with you, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Oh, And I thought it was just maybe the one I got, but you said yours is the same way. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the Acer L2.
Yeah.
So yeah, they announced the Acer L2, which is kind of a next gen diode. It's got what was it? It has the auto focus, so it's got like a probe on it, so it will
Yeah.
go down, touch off on your material. So that's a very interesting add-on. I believe it has. What was it? The other thing. Oh, doesn't it have the integrated air option as well? And now I don't know if that's just on and off, or if it has any sort of adjustment to it. That would be one of my
Yeah.
prerequisites. But
Yeah, I don't know all the details, but yeah, I do know it does have the autofocus, which it stands to reason if it has autofocus, then it very well is going to have a Z-axis as well that you could adjust because to go up and down, it's got to have some way. I don't know if they're going to have it. They could have
yeah,
it
no,
limited by software, but
yeah, I don't know
but
that it's going to be able to move during the job, but I think it uses like the touch off probe to set the focus, um,
yeah.
and go with that. But definitely something that could be expanded in the future to be able to control that.
The Acer makes a good machine from my dealing with them. I know a couple people have had some problems with the air assist, but I haven't had any problems with mine. Uh, Here's a good technical question. But yeah, Jack, the Otour, I would say this: if you're getting into it and you want to like an established brand, Otour and Atom Stack are they've got budget machines and then they've got the high end machines. So those are two brands that have been around for a while. I like Acer, but they are relatively new to the genre. But Atom Stack and Otour have been around for a long time, and they make the cheap, small machines all the way up into the really big ones. And pretty much they're all basically built on the same platform other than the power output. But Kim has a question here. And this is technical, Steve, and I know you're biting at the bit to answer this one, so I'm gonna let you go with it.
Um, this is one of those. It depends. So a lot of the controllers will use a similar 4-pin connection to the laser. And so usually 2 of them are going to be your power, 2 of them are going to be your control. But some of them are going to have different pinouts. And so first off, you'd have to be able to figure out which ones are going to which, and they may or may not have the appropriate adapter to make that swap. Or some of them will have extra pins. So like on the X tool, they actually have 6 and 8 pins on them. So those are harder to adapt and swap around. Secondly, then you have to make sure that it'll mount to it, which, again, if you're handy, you could maybe make an adapter plate and such. Or in some cases, like, Two Trees and a few others, they actually make just aftermarket laser modules, and they usually come with some adapter plates and cables. But it's not like across the board, I can just take one from this and just drop it on there. You do need to know a little bit about the pinout of the board and the laser head itself. But in theory, yes, they all are going to have power leads, and they're going to have their power control leads. So
Yeah. Now there are some of the lower end machines. A lot of them use the same module, and then I know with it looks to me like Acer and Atom Stack use a lot of the same equipment. So you might could specifically find a machine if you had if you had 2 broken machines. If you got lucky and they were the right brand, you might could do it as long as the power output or power requirements for the module was close to the same. Because some of these boards can't handle the bigger modules without changing the board out. Here's you another one, a little troubleshooting one.
So if you're working in Lightburn and you're
Yeah.
talking about the your workspace, you actually need to turn on the option to show that it's filled versus just switching layers, which would just change the color. And I just trying to load up here to
hang
remember.
Yeah, It's in the view settings. Instead of wireframe, you've got to turn it to field up top. Let me see if I can swap my screen. Here we go. Yeah, it is right here. There's the setting that you got to do.
Can't see what you're looking at.
Yeah, you got to turn this. Here we go. That's it, right there, right here on your display. If you let me show you. This is what you're talking about. When you bring something in, if you want it to look like that, then you got to have field and smooth turned on. If you've got wireframe and smooth, it's going to do like that. So you're going to want to go up here to this screen and turn on field and smooth, and that'll paint it in and fill it in to show you that it is a cut. So, all right, there we go. But yeah, I think that's what he was talking about. I'm sorry I shrunk you all the way off the thing. I was trying to hit the buttons over here.
No,
I got the wrong one.
Yeah.
But yeah, but that's probably what's going on there, Stephen.
Yep.
If you just installed Lightburn, I think for some reason it defaults to that wireframe. And if you have a computer that maybe is struggling with resources, that might be a benefit, but I don't really think it would make enough difference to hurt anything.
So Pascally, we're actually streaming to 4 different places. So depending on where you're at, you may or may not be seeing all of the chat, and we actually don't have chat overlay on. So I'll
there we go.
pop that on. So yeah, this is going to both our Facebook groups as well as our YouTube pages. So depending on where you're at, or where other people are at, you may not be seeing things, but we'll get the overlay going here. So hopefully the chat questions come up. But
Yeah.
thanks for stopping by. And yeah, I saw your question earlier. Hopefully we got you some extra answers. He was another one looking at some lasers for a first-time purchase on kind of a budget. And so hopefully we answered that a little bit more. If you have more questions, definitely drop them in the chat.
Yeah, it does get confusing if we don't have it turned on, because we're streaming to 2 separate Facebook pages and 2 separate YouTube channels. And so depending on where people are viewing from, you may not see their comments, but we'll try to, good. Thanks for reminding us to turn the chat overlay on so you can see everybody's comments.
Yeah. So Hayden is wondering about Lightburn having a setting for turning laser on to framework. And yes, you can. What you need to do is you need to go into your Move tab. Or actually, you need to go into your device settings first. And in there...
You need me to go over to them.
Hold on. Let me see if I can share real quick here. I just need to jump to the right window. All right. You going to make me full screen here?
Yeah, I'm going to turn the overlay off for a second. Or hang on.
All right. So we're in Lightburn here.
There we go.
Let me just jump back out of here. So if you come into your edit and go to your device settings, you'll see these options here. There's enable the laser fire button, and it's not showing up, is it? And
yeah.
Oh, there we go. Okay. You'll see the enable laser fire button, and you'll see the laser on when framing. When you tick both of those on, then it will enable this feature over here, which would have your fire button. And normally it shouldn't be at 3%, but I was messing around with something. Then you want to put your power up to about half, maybe up to 1%, and that should turn your laser on while you do your framing in Lightburn. If you don't have both the laser fire option, if you just turn on enable laser fire, but you leave this one off, it won't fire, but if you hold shift down when you frame, it will. So you want to make sure you tick both of those if you want it to do it every single time. And then you also need to bump up your power over here.
Yeah, and I would recommend, especially if you're getting into the 30, 35 watts, because I learned this with the Atom Stack, don't put it on 1%. Stay at like 0.5 or 0.3, because at 1%, that 35 watt will leave a line on your material. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Penny's got bad internet. Says she's going to leave. We keep buffering. Watch the
Oh, that's too
replay,
bad.
Penny. I don't think it's us this time. I don't think it's
Hopefully
us.
not. No.
Yeah. Uh, Jay Real says he's trying to build his own. Should I retype it? Did I ask? What's? Do you know what he's talking about? Which one?
I'd have to scroll back up. Go ahead and wait. Hold on, Sen.
Yeah, there's a lot of comments comes in on our end, guys. So if we miss you, just keep throwing it back out there.
So he's okay. Yeah, he does have a pretty long one in here. I don't think it'll fit on screen per se, but he's in the market for the first laser. Looking to spend less than 600, and looking at the Comgrow Z1 with the big honeycomb, the rollers and air assist, and that's 514. Wondering what we think. Want to engrave more than cut, but want to keep it open and get creative. Also, should I get the camera right away? And then he follows up with his workshop is outside under a military tent. It's very well ventilated, have fans, air compressor, etc. So if you've got that, now the newer Comgrow Z1s, I believe, are actually coming with an air assist cone on them. They don't always necessarily say that, but I've noticed that in a few. So you might not need the air assist. And if you have shop air, all you would need is to put like a moisture trap in front of the laser and maybe then a valve to adjust your flow. And then you could run it off of shop air. So that could save you a little bit of money there. The Comgrow, the big magnetic honeycomb, that's one I like the best. It's like almost 24 inches square. So your whole laser for most of your 400 by 400 millimeter machines will fit right on there. I think that's probably the best bang for the buck in that size. If you're looking at the one that's more 19 3/4, there was one that just came out by Datey Wheels. I did a video on it a week or so ago. That's actually about the best value there. It's steel, it's magnetic, and it comes with some actual real good rare earth magnets instead of the kind of the lighter weight plastic and refrigerator type magnets. So if you're looking for the smaller one down there, you could save some money on that one. Rollers. Did you have the Comgrow roller? Did you play around with that one?
Yeah, it's a little small, and it's one of the ones that has the high. The end rails are kind of high, so doing longer stuff is a bit of a challenge. You have to make the sleeve wheels or something to keep it on there. Not the best roller as far as size and doing different items, but it worked. I did some wine glasses with it, a couple of tumblers and stuff like that. But it was a very basic roller. But I did have the camera. I think you had the camera too. And the Z1 ran good for me. I liked it. I didn't have any problems out of it. Matter of fact, my brother's still using it. So it's still a decent machine as far as the 10 watt. And if you really want to step it up, the 20 watt module that they make for it, it unlocks a whole new level of that machine. It does shrink your workspace, kind of like the X Tool module. When you add that module, you don't expand the frame, therefore you lose about 20 millimeters or so of workspace. But if you're looking for power, it's it may be worth that trade-off for you.
Now the Z1's default working area, that's a little bit under 400 square, right? If I recall right, it's a little bit smaller.
Don't make me lie. I want to say it was right at. I'm wanting to say it was right at 400 by 400. Give me just a second, and I'll tell you.
I was going to say that might be one of the only things. No, it is. It's 400 by 400. So I take that back.
I was thinking it was. Because like some of the other ones are 420 and 430, but it's a 400 by 400.
Yeah. So yeah, no, I agree. It was a really good machine, and I think it's a decent budget machine that's got some good with it for the value. My only question with them is, they came out with the 20 watt module mid last year. mid to late summer, and haven't really seen anything new from them recently. So I'm kind of curious what they're up to with it. But
Well, I don't know, but I kind of think them and Creality are like in cahoots because because the Creality, a lot of the things that you see in the Creality looks like it may have came from Comro. So I don't know, but I'm like you. You would think they'd have came out with the Z1 20 watt and maybe expanded the work size, but they may have found something that they like and it works and they're just sticking with it. Who knows?
sure.
Oh, let's see. I saw another question somewhere.
Well, you got one up on the screen here.
Yeah, but I saw another one too.
Well, you haven't answered the one on the screen.
Yeah. Software squaring to be off. Installed error assist. Error assist shouldn't cause your squaring to be off. I'm not following on that. What? I'm guessing this is an X tool, D1 5 watt.
Yeah, it says X tool D1 5 watt.
Installed error assist. Squaring to be off. Oh, maybe she's talking about he. Maybe he's talking about the crosshair, because the air assist nozzle will partially obstruct that red crosshair, but it shouldn't have affected framing, other than it will obscure part of the, especially that little screw. The X tool, when it's bad, they put that screw right in front of the red laser, and so that screw will actually block the laser light from the framing laser. Maybe that's what they're talking about.
Oh, yeah, he says it blocks it. Yeah, the crosshair. So, if it's the old style, I think it has 2 screws on there. You could technically leave 1 screw out and just do your squaring and your framing with the one in there. I just disabled the crosshair. I went to using the power on laser framing and used it that way after putting the air assist on. So I think those are kind of your 2 options on the original X tool doing. Okay.
You can also, if you can go online and you can order a pack of grub screws.
Oh, there you
go. Replace that. I don't know why they used a Phillips head screw or like an actual headed screw, but you can go online and buy you a pack of grub screws and take that screw out, put a grub screw in there that does not protrude outside the air assist cone, and it'll be back like it normally would be. And I got a pack of them somewhere over there, but I was going to show you, but I can't find them. So, but that's the third option. But it really doesn't need.
Yeah, that's a good option too. Just to replace that with the grub screw. It's probably a 3 millimeter.
Don't make me lie. I can't remember.
Okay. Just making you guess.
I can't remember. I can't remember. I don't want to say it. Then somebody order a pack of them and be like, "You told me it was a 3 mil."
Well, that's my hobby stuff. I just order a pack of metric grub screws, metric socket head stuff, and try to keep them on hand. But I play
that's what I would
use them. So.
Yeah, and that's what I would recommend, because if you have it already, it's a matter of time before you're going to lose one of those little grub screws. So it's not a bad idea to go online and buy a pack of assorted metric grub screws.
Mm-hmm.
Like $2 or $3 for 20 or 30 of them probably. And just put those in your toolbox so that when you do lose one, there's a good chance you've got another one. Somebody else agrees with me. They think because I think Comgrow and Creality are in cahoots.
Well, there's a lot of places that do sell Creality gear and or, have taken that whole Ender design. So it's hard to say, but they definitely have some connection with them. So Kim's asking about Lightburn. Is it easy program to run? Is it a G code or just for cutters and engravers? So Lightburn was made specifically for laser engravers. However, it adds in a bit of design software. So if you've used CAD or if you've used graphics software with using layers for part of your design, it pulls in part of that. And so there's a lot of people who will learn Lightburn and then they'll export from Lightburn to another CAD program or another cutter type thing. So some people will prototype. I know people with like plasma cutters for metal, and they'll prototype in cardboard or plywood off their laser, and then they'll take their file out of Lightburn, export the DXF, send it over to their plasma cutter, and then cut the real thing in metal. So it's designed to run lasers, and that's kind of where they focus. But you can export export your designs out in most vector formats and such, or Illustrator and others. So there are 3 different versions. There's a G-code version, which is what works on most of the diode lasers that we have. There's a Ruida style for a larger CO2s, and then now they've added their fiber. And so there's different levels to the licensing. The nice thing is they offer a 30-day free trial. You can try it out, make sure it works with your laser, make sure you understand it enough and want to use it. And then after that, for the G-code version, it's $60 to purchase it, and that gets you 1 year of support. After that, if you want to continue to get updates, you then pay, I think it's $30 a year. But you don't have to. You pay the $60 up front, and it's yours to use on whatever version they come out with within that year. Then you can choose to upgrade or not. And then it goes up from there. I believe the Ruida one is something like $120 to purchase, and then I forget what the fiber add-on is. So it's very universal. A lot of the lasers use it, are compatible with it, unless you get into the real high-end ones, and then they tend to have their proprietary software. And so if you're kind of in this consumer hobby, prosumer grade of it, the nice thing is you learn it. A lot of people use it, and then if you switch lasers, you don't necessarily have to relearn your software.
Yeah. Pascal's asking, how is the free version? Pascal, it's an unlimited free version. Like if you download it, you get every functionality of the software for 30 days. And at the conclusion of that 30 days, you're going to have to, buy it or not. But there is no restrictions on what you can do with it during that 30 days. And I recommend everybody try it for 30 days before you buy it. If nothing else, you get a month free. If you buy the year license, you buy the license, you get a year. But if you use that 30 days, then you're technically getting 13 months for the price of 12. So within 30 days, you'll know whether Lightburn is for you or not. It's not bad.
Yeah, and as Chris says here, they only charge for the difference when upgrades. So if you move from a G-code version with your diode and decide, hey, I'm going to get a CO2 laser and you need to upgrade, they only charge the difference. And in addition to that, they give you 2 licenses right off the bat, so you can run it on 2 different machines at the same time. And if you ask really nicely, they'll add a 3rd on there as well. And then you can deactivate and reactivate as needed if you move machines to a point. I think they limit you to a certain number of those, but they're very giving with this software. They're not milking every penny out of it. And quite frankly, as far as CAD CAM software goes, it is really inexpensive compared to other things in the CNC world, or if you've ever priced out AutoCAD or some of the subscription-based things for some of the other CNC machines. $60 up front with really no other commitment for the base version of their software is a pretty good deal. So
yeah. And like I said, so far, I haven't found anything that I've quit using any other software really for designing, even logos and stuff. I make logos in Lightburn and export them now.
So that's my I don't know. I get stuck on what I've learned, and I have a hard time transitioning away. And so I'm still used to designing in CAD or in Illustrator and then importing it. So I did a project today, and I recorded it, kind of just the work through of designing something simple, and I forced myself to do it in Lightburn. And so I'm going to be putting that video out there. And in it, I say, hey, I'm not an expert at designing in Lightburn, but I know a lot of people, this is the software they purchase to use with their laser, and they don't want to buy other software. So let's go through this, how we would design this in Lightburn to work straight to the laser. So hopefully that goes over well. It's going to be out hopefully in a day or two, and you can all either tell me how wrong I was in my design work, or hopefully learn a few things from me. So,
somebody's going to tell you don't know what you're doing.
well, that's why I was very, I tell a lot of people, hey, I've got a lot of years into this, but, and I'd like to share my knowledge, but as much as I know, I also know there's a lot I don't know. And so that's why I put things out there is, hey, I'm sharing my experience. If you've got a better way, let me know, because then we all learn about it. So I'll be humble. That's fine.
Yeah. Lightburn does not work on that I'm aware of, unless Steve knows of something, on mobile devices. It is Windows and Mac only,
Yep.
to my knowledge. And you actually have to have you can't run it on just any Windows. It has to be a newer version of Windows too. But you can go to the system requirements and look. But I had an old Windows 7 machine I tried to use, and that didn't work. Oh, Photoshop just laughed at me when I tried to install it on the Windows 7 machine. The longer, I haven't had that issue. I would check the firmware, make sure the firmware is up to date, and maybe I guess that would probably about the only thing would be the firmware, just the communications with Lightburn.
Yeah. So, the thing is with a lot of the GRBL controllers, it's streaming the information to the laser. So the computer can sometimes, it gets the job ahead of where the laser's at, and then it's the laser's holding that in memory. So that's where you kind of get the difference between the job time in Lightburn versus what's going on the laser. Now, if it's finishing, if it does the entire job, great, it's done. But if it's getting held up, or your machine stops, then it might be time to look into the USB connection, or however you have it connected, to make sure that nothing is going to sleep there and interrupting that connection, because they don't like to interrupt that stream of information going between Lightburn and the computer, or the laser. So
yeah, the USB ports could be going to sleep if it's a long burn and then it's not receiving data back from the machine at the completion.
A lot of laptops in their power saving mode, they have that set up to where you got to turn off the sleep settings for not only the screen, but the USB ports and such like that too.
Yeah, Windows 10 and Windows 11 have way more power saving consumption settings. And I did a video on how not to let your computer go to sleep. If you get to looking for that, it'll kind of show you where to go and what needs to be done to make sure that doesn't happen, because it can actually interrupt your burn, but it's a good thing if it doesn't.
So, Mark, unfortunately, Xtool does not allow other softwares to write to their controller. Any changes you make with that have to be done through XCS, and I haven't played around with XCS enough to understand if they have a calibration value adjustment in there. So I'm not the person to ask on that, mainly because I got it set up with Lightburn and rolled with it. So, but yeah, that's the same thing. If you're trying to make any changes to, like if you extend it, you actually have to go into XCS and make the change there, versus doing anything through reading it from the controller and Lightburn. It won't let you actually write to it. So.
Yeah, and that's one of those situations where, like we talked about before, if you're somebody that likes to tweak with your settings and tweak with your controller and manipulate, maximum speeds and all that, accelerations and stuff, Xtool doesn't play well with that. You might want to stick with the Atom Stacks and the Acer's of the world.
Yeah. Well, that's why I consider them, Apple. They've got really pretty packaging. They spend a lot of money on marketing. They do a lot in the showmanship of their product, and they do make a nice looking product, but they also like to control it and make sure that it's within these parameters. And so, if you like to tinker, you're the Windows Linux guy, not the Apple guy, then Xtools might be a little frustrating at times, because they're going to lock you into that. So.
Yeah, they're like, don't touch my settings. Yeah. Oh, I appreciate you, Kim. We try to be helpful, and if we're not helpful, we try to be funny. But that's what we're here for. like I said, Steve and I, and if you haven't joined our group, we'll go ahead and throw that out there on Facebook. We also have a Facebook group that me and Steve kind of hang out in the shadows and come through every now and then. And you can go join that and, just throw pictures of your projects in there. You can come in and ask questions. And Steve and I are in there, and a bunch of guys like Jeff and some of these other guys that are in here that have sat through hours of listening to me and Steve and have their own knowledge as well. That'll be more than willing to help answer some of your questions and stuff for you. But if you haven't already, guys, whether you're on Facebook, YouTube, or whatever, hit the like, share, thumbs up, whatever, all that kind of jive. It helps us get the videos to reach more people, and just kind of helps keep things going, because the more questions and the more people are in here, the easier it is for us to sit around and try to look like, we're doing something constructive for an hour or two. So, yeah, appreciate you there, Merrill. Yeah, hit the like button if you hadn't. Thumbs up, comment, whatever. And, Chris, Brian sent a message the other day in the laser engraving group that he had somewhere to be this weekend. He wasn't going to be able to make it for the live. And I was really devastated when I heard that, because Steve has trimmed the beard. And I was really looking to see, I was wanting to see Brian's reaction when he saw the beard, but he wasn't here for that. So,
well,
anyway,
yeah, it does grow out, but yeah, it's like I said, it hit summer earlier this week, and I was getting warm, so it was time for a haircut and a beard trim. So,
but I told Steve Brian was going to be devastated.
Yeah. So, following up on the question, wondering about the refurbished model. I assume you're talking about Comgrow, because I know a lot of people they have offered refurbished models. So, I will say it's a little bit like going to an auction or hitting the lottery a little bit. You never know what you're going to get. In some cases, it's just a returned machine that someone maybe didn't need to buy, couldn't put together something, or it could be something that had a problem with, and then you got to, did they actually go through it and fix what was wrong? So Comgrow, from my experience, they're responsive to that, and they will, if you find you're got a part missing or whatnot, they'll probably send it to you, but it could delay getting your machine up and running, because you might be missing some screws, or might be missing some miscellaneous part or something on there. So it's always a little bit of a gamble. I would definitely reach out to the company and just ask first, say, hey, what kind of warranty is still with this, and if I'm missing things, are you guaranteeing that this is going to be a full laser? But you can save some money that way. So again, if you're okay with tinkering a little bit, and or possibly waiting, it might be worth saving some money. Otherwise, like I said, I would probably go with the brand new full warranty, should be pristine laser. But that being said, I've bought refurbished things before, and I've been looking for the or scratch and dent, where I have to look really hard to find the scratch and or dent. So sometimes you can make out good with that, but I always look at refurbished with a bit of a close eye of, is it worth it, and am I saving enough for the possible issues? So
yeah, I mean, if you're saving enough money, it might be worth taking a chance,
Mm-hmm.
So that I would agree. Now, Chris, I think we'll be okay without Brian. I'm sure he'll be back next week. Which next week you're going to be actually here, aren't you?
I should be. I should be there.
So y'all may get to see like the two of us in the shack or somewhere. I don't know where we're going to be. We may be at a restaurant and getting Steve to try some Southern cuisine. Who knows?
So
troubleshooting got the lenses.
Oh, excellent. Good to hear. Yeah, I saw a few people ordered them after the show last week, and I appreciate that. And for those who I recognized that they were from the live stream, I did throw in one of my stickers that I had made up with my logo. So, well, yeah.
I don't got a sticker. How come I don't got a sticker?
I don't know. You never send me a sticker.
I'll give you. Hey, I'll make you a deal. I'll give you a static clean Clack Shack logo that you can put on your vehicle when you go to Albany, and you can ride that thing all the way home if you want. I've got some extra static clings. I'll let you have one. Yeah, he's saying that with a 20% discount for the refurb, it's only $50 savings. So you just got to make that decision.
Mm-hmm. So here's one from earlier that I saw scroll by. We got to talking. So Bob's asking about getting a darker engrave on a pine board besides slower speed and not have such a deep engrave. So pine's always tricky because they have that kind of variation in grain that you can get a real dark area and then a softer area or deeper and shallower area. If you're using Lightburn, what you might want to do is try a couple of lighter passes and use the crosshatch feature, where it's going to go, horizontal and then vertical on the engrave. That can sometimes even things out, add a little bit of color without making it too dark. But you'd want to take your normal power and maybe cut it in half or maybe 60% for each pass and try that. But a lot of times what you'll find is the wood is going to be however it wants to be. You can get a little color variation, but at some point it's just going to start getting deeper. And pine is one of those woods that is very temperamental, depending on the grain and the sappiness and such. So if you need a real even dark engrave, I would look at something more like maybe a basswood or another soft, soft wood that'll hopefully not be too much more expensive. Trying to think of the couple others I've used, but
poplar.
Poplar's one. Although there you can get anything from real white to a purple green look, which can be good. But those tend to have a little less.
It goes away.
Yeah, those can be a little more balanced in it. So,
cedar's a good one to get dark burns, as long as you get the red, the darker part of the cedar.
Mm-hmm.
I have found that LPI can make a difference with pine. If you turn the LPI up, you can get a little more black. Kind of the same effect as what you're saying with doing a double hatch. Just because you're marking over where you've already marked, and so it does seem to make it a little bit darker. But I do a lot of pine and spruce and stuff with my stove covers.
Now, if it doesn't need to be hardwood, one thing that I've found and a couple other friends have found is that if you get an MDF core plywood, the MDF engraves really nice and it doesn't cut as easily. So if you can set up your laser to just engrave through that, whatever your veneer face is for that plywood, and then just engrave that MDF, it leaves a really nice contrast there. So that's another thing to look at, depending on what you're going with. If plywood's out, that might not work for you, but just something to play with as well.
There you go. There's you. I haven't done this one, so I'm gonna let you look at it.
Lightburn interval tool, similar to the power tool.
Okay. It's a little interval test, I think, he's talking about. I've never used it.
Yeah. I haven't played around with it much, but I know that's something that I think needs a little more investigating and testing on. I know that mucking around with your interval can have effect on both engraves and cuts, and so that would be. But I don't know that they have a really good test without going in and manually adjusting it in your layer settings each time. I don't know that you can create a grid showing you the effects of different interval without creating that manually. But that would definitely be something to play with. And got to say, I don't have an answer for that one.
Oh, Lightburn actually has the interval test, like they did a power test. Yes, that's what I was asking.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Yeah, I've just never used it, so I can't really speak to its effectiveness or how to use it, because I just never have. I might need to start, but I never have.
Oh yeah, so that's your interval of your lines.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Yep.
Yeah, it's just like I said. I find settings that I like, and I'm just kind of I'm just a creature of habit. I stick with it. But that wouldn't be a bad thing to test. I mean, it might, especially on certain
So
materials. Now, I don't know about wood. I don't know if wood's going to really make too much of a difference.
yeah, well, I mean, it's really gonna depend also on your focus, and so what you're going for there is if your focal point of your laser is truly 0.08 millimeters square, then ideally a 0.08 interval is going to have zero overlap. But then what you might be going for is what does having some overlap or some gap between those lines do? And so that's where that test would come in handy.
Yeah. There you go. Colors. get a paintbrush. Don't try
Well,
it.
so there's a few different ways to do that. I mean, you can get your tones of your wood. Obviously, they're not necessarily colors, but that will give you like a black and white photo setting to be able to adjust with your power. On stainless steel, obviously, the various power and speeds will bring out different colors in that. But some people have played with like powder coating material, laying that down on their stuff and going over it. What I like to do is, if I'm doing color, is I will engrave and then color fill with paint or colored epoxy kind of thing, rather and do it post, but not so much on the laser. So, but it's interesting stuff. If you get into the fiber laser with metals, that they do more with different colors and tones as well. But they're a much higher frequency and power than our diode lasers and our CO2 lasers are running at. So,
Yeah. Yeah, if I'm going for color, like you said, I mean, you can grayscale, but as far as like true color, I'm just going to mask it, cut it, engrave it, whichever, and then I'm going to backfill that thing with some acrylic, or like you said, epoxy, if it's a really expensive project. Look, I've still got screws and stuff in my pocket from today, but that wall behind me is insulated now, guys. I feel like I got kicked by a mule, but that wall behind me now has insulation in it. Yeah, trouble. My theory is if it works, don't be trying to work on. Don't be trying to fix it if it ain't broke. So, especially when you're doing a whole bunch of them. Yeah, you could change the LPI to do different things, and like Steve said, you can change the crosshatch and flood fill, and you can get really creative with that if that's what you're into. But I just haven't ever done a whole lot of it. But the epoxy powder thing really scares me, or the what is it? The powder coating stuff? I don't want that in my laser. There's too much wind moving around in there. That stuff gets in the wrong place. You'll be changing out a lens with the quickness. And I just cleaned both my big machines this week, and I am happy to report still no damaged lenses. So my X-Tool 20 watt is still running with the same lens it came with.
well, you obviously don't use your laser that much then.
Yes, sir. I bet. You see, hey, you seen this? I got like 20 of these big stacks of these things. Those things been good night, man. I put one on Facebook, and the orders just started piling in, and they want them. I got white, I got glitter gold, I got glitter silver. I went and bought a bunch of different paints. So, but yeah.
Yeah, so I like the as far as that, putting down the masking, engrave through that, then you can paint over it, peel off the masking, and then I should back up, do the engrave, seal it, do the painting, then peel off the mask. Otherwise, you can get some bleed through. But yeah, it's there's a lot of things you can be creative with the material and such in the tools.
All right. I don't know. So trouble. I'm not sure what trouble was talking about with the backup, unless it was the lens. I think it's what she's saying.
I think that's what
The
he's
lenses
saying.
are good, but she's got, or he is it he? Yeah, I guess it's a he. But yeah, I've got some extra lenses too. I've got some of the Steve Mills world famous lenses over here. But luckily I haven't had to use them yet. But it is good to know that if something happens, I can, that way, because like I've got an order for 160 of these little desk organizers that I've got to cut. And so I've got the eights are cleaned, ready to go. And this week I'm going to be cutting as many as I can. And I can only cut 2 of those things out of a 37 by 17 piece of wood. So I've got 160 of them to cut. So I've got my machine serviced, cleaned, ready to go. And this week, every afternoon when I get home, I'm going to start turning those things out and boxing them up. And then I've got another job of 160 name tags with the magnets on them, which I'm going to turn that one over to my buddy Decline, let him handle that one because he's got the capability of doing those. And we're going to just split that work up so I don't have to spend so much time doing it. All right, guys, questions, comments, concerns? If you hadn't already, hit the thumbs up, like, subscribe, follow, share, comment on Steve's beard, whatever.
So, Mark, it might be worth it to run a kerf test on your laser to see if one axis is cutting wider than the other. So if you're rotating the piece and it's not quite fitting, that might be part of the issue, is that a lot of times our diode lasers they don't have like a round or a square focus point that might be rectangular. And if yours is really rectangular, that could be part of what you're fighting on yours. So I do have a video on that shows just cutting out some squares. You measure both the vertical and the horizontal dimensions, and then you can do an offset from that. But it'll also tell you if your vertical and your horizontal are, like if you cut out a 1-inch square and it's 0.92 in one direction and 0.96 in the other, then you're going to see that you do have a little bit of difference there. So,
well, since we last discussed that, I have checked most every machine in this shop. And I will tell you that I have not found one yet that isn't a little bit rectangular. The Atom Stack, the Acer, the X-Tool, they're all just a little bit rectangular. And if you don't believe it, raise that thing up about 2 foot out of focus and just hit the test fire button on about 50% power, and it'll show you exactly what it's shaped like, because it'll scorch your piece of wood in the shape of a rectangle.
It sure will.
Uh-oh. Jeff says he's got 3 air pumps plus shop air. How do I know which one is best? It's personal preference, in my opinion, but shop air.
It's really more about flow than pressure. So if your pumps, some of the pumps that come with some of these lasers are maybe marginal on strong enough. So yeah, having a compressor that you can adjust and play with is definitely going to give you more variability to kind of fine tune it. But really, it just kind of comes down to testing them. If you feel one is not doing enough, I'd hook it up to your shop air. Just make sure you've got that got a moisture trap as close to the laser as you can, and then a way to maybe adjust your flow. And from there, once you find a sweet spot, leave it and go with it.
Yes, I've got water separators at every line connection going to my shop air. I've got a water separator, and I get a lot. I mean, you have to drain those things pretty regular. And then, of course, I've got a little ball valve that I can use to where I can go like 50% air or 100% air. And typically, I set the regulator to where it's about 10 psi to the regulator. But then I can adjust the flow by using the ball valve. Steve, somebody's wanting to buy your Corsair file.
That is actually not my Corsair file. It is from a seller on Etsy. And so you can buy it. It's only $4. I should really add that to the description of that video. In fairness, I thought I did. But
whoever's Etsy shop that is would appreciate that. Moisture control, Pascal. What we're talking about on shop air, it's not as well. I mean, it could be an issue with a pump, because when you compress air, and it tends to get moisture molecules pressed out of it, and then it will be in your air lines. And if you don't separate that before it goes through the machine, you can end up basically spraying water on everything. So you want a water separator to get the water out of the air before it goes through your machine. And I was going to try to show you guys what I use. Here we go. Da, 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 da. All right, let me swap my screen here. All right, that's the guy that I use right there. That's the one that I use, and it comes with the you've got the water separator here, and then you've got a little gauge, which the gauge is not really my favorite, but it works. This is the regulator part of it. You have to pull this up, turn it to get the desired pressure, and then once you push that back down, it kind of locks the pressure where it is. And the valve just kind of goes in here, and then straight out of there, I put one of the fittings that goes directly into the black 1/4 inch line goes in here. This is not used. I do not use those. Now, if you have an air setup, you could actually use this for your intake if you wanted to, if you have quick connect setups. But yeah, but that's what we mean by as far as like keeping the moisture out of your air. So that's that. And it's only $22.69. I forgot to mention that. On Business Prime, it may be more than that on normal Amazon. Because I have found that the Business Prime, I didn't think it was, but apparently Business Prime is a little cheaper.
Yeah, on some things they are.
Yep. Yeah, Pascal, it's rough when you live in the rainforest like we do here in Alabama and Louisiana, because there's moisture everywhere. Like I think it's like 80% humidity here today, and especially like I said, compressed air is just notorious for that. Most air compressors have a water separator on them where the outlet is from the compressor, but it's not gonna catch it all, and you're still gonna have some condensation in the lines as it moves through the lines going to the machine. So I've got 4 of these water separators and regulator setups. I've got one on my testing table, which is here, and then I've got one on all 3 of my other machines. And like I said, about once a week, I'll go through and push the little button to let the water out of it, and it'll have maybe just like maybe a 1/4 of an ounce of water in those things. I try to drain the compressor itself pretty regular, but I forget and wind up getting even more water.
Yeah, and if you get water in that lens while the laser's firing, you're going to find yourself with a cracked lens really quick, and so that's why you want to do it.
Oh yeah, not to mention, could you imagine if you were spraying wet water on ashy laser residue? You would have like some black stain. It almost be like chalk paint.
I'm not going to say I've maybe witnessed that, but yeah,
Oh,
it's interesting.
Look like you took some black tempera paint and sprayed it on there. Yeah. Oh, so there you go. No, my bad.
Yeah. So the pointing people towards the X tool or the Atoms, I assume you're talking about the new 30. That's a tough one. So the X tool is a nice machine. One thing about it is it's a little more compact than the Atom Stack machines. It's not as tall, and they also have some fan regulation in there where it based on power usage and or temperature, it's going to run the fan on the module, and if it's sitting idle, it actually powers down to just a low fan, which is nice if you're doing things in between jobs and you don't want this kind of whiny fan running on you. But as far as capabilities and functionality, they're both nice machines. They both they've been around for a while. They both have a lot of options for expandability and such as well. So I think, at that point, unless there's a feature that they really like about one or other, maybe they want one that looks like Iron Man, go with the X-Tool 20 Pro with the red and gold. Otherwise, check the price and availability. That's probably going to be between those. They're both fine machines. So, okay. I'm not sure if I should say thanks, but thanks, John. Well, made him break out the sounds.
Hey, I couldn't help it. Brian's not here, man. I got to do what I got to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, John said he's filling in for Brian. Oh, see, Brian. I think Brian is actually more well known in the group than we are.
Okay. Slate coasters. So this is a bit of I guess, a matter of preference on whether you seal them or not. They do provide more contrast. You'll get a darker color slate, and then it might bring out a little more white. I've only sealed them after I engraved them. I haven't tried before. I've actually been thinking about doing a video of kind of testing the 3 different methods. I try to use, like Trouble's mentioning, a satin poly, and that helps cut down on the super wet look. And that's what turns me off from it a little bit, is when you get that glossy finish and it just looks really wet and you get the light glare on it. I don't like that as much. And so I try to, when I do seal them, I try to use a matte finish, just like a polyurethane kind of thing. And that works out pretty well. But the reason I do it afterwards is if you screw it up, you can easily sand it down and redo it. But if you have poly on there, it looks okay, but sometimes the double layers on the edges don't look as great. But I don't know. I haven't tried. I haven't tried as many. Like I was saying, I think I want to set up a test and do a few different styles of a few different methods, doing it without, before and after, and also a few different types of sealer on it, just to see what they do. I think it'd be an interesting test. So.
Yep. Yeah, I don't usually seal mine. If I do, I use satin finish spray poly because I don't like brush poly. I can't get the brush strokes out of it. The spray is easy. It gets down in the engrave without causing puddling or pooling. I like the spray for engraves. Unless you're trying to fill it with polyurethane, then you just get the brush out and fill it and heat it and get the bubbles out of it. Brown engraver, man, off Slayton. Oh, see, and you thought you were safe since Brian wasn't here.
Well,
Yes, spray poly is spray polyurethane. Hang on, I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. Oh, my back, man! Too much up and down a ladder.
I hope that
today,
noise wasn't
guys.
in your back.
Oh, it probably was, dude. I've been on that ladder trying to put that insulation. I had to call my wife. I was up on the ladder, 16-foot piece of like heavy gauge tin. Wind was blowing. I thought I'd died. My wife came out here and helped me, but that's it right there. And this is the clear semi-gloss. That is as shiny as I go. I've got some satin and I've got semi-gloss. But that's as shiny as I go. And this stuff, I've got several cans of it. This is the fast drying. That is a plus. I've never seen the slow drying formula, but fast drying is a plus. I don't know if do they make slow drying poly?
I mean, the water-based poly tends to be a little bit slower, but.
Well, I've got some of that too. The polyacrylic.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually fast on wood. They use polyacrylic on a lot of times on my engraves, I use a polyacrylic because it will actually kind of give the wood a little bit of a color too. So, but yeah, you'll get all kinds of sealers. Shellac, I've never used shellac on slate. I've never really used shellac on anything. I've removed shellac, which is tough. But Yeah, I think that was my back, Steve. Oh, it's terrible getting old.
Well, you just get all that
All
work
right.
done before I show up.
Well, I'm trying to get it cool in here because you will die. I'm really feared for your safety because I mean I don't know if you can handle the heat down here. I mean you've been up there shoveling snow and then you're going to come down here. That's just seems like a recipe for disaster or heat stroke.
Well, I did get the air conditioning fixed on my van. It was had a well, I mean it's been working, but I on the passenger front side, you know, it's got the dual zone climate control. The blend door actuator that switches from heat to cold likes to get stuck on heat over the winter. I don't know, being there for 6 months out of the year, it just seems to like to park itself. So I was hurting my back, contorting underneath my dash to pull that out not once but twice to get it fixed. So now I won't have cold air on me and heat coming out my passenger side, which, you know, would kind of negate some of the effect.
Well, now, you know, if you get two strings and then you tie one for heat and one for cold, you could just kind of. Oh, there we go. 10 years old, slow drying now. So I guess if you age it, it gets slow dry. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe I need to get me some, like, you know, they need to start aging it like they do certain drinks. All right, guys, y'all slowing down on the questions. We're going to just start talking about beards, and I'm going to start playing funny noises over here because I've got some more noises that I put on here that we haven't got to use yet. Is that tumbler got anything engraved on it yet?
This, yeah, this is from my buddy Chris. I had a glimpse inside, and
yeah.
He's
the one that has all the Baltic birch, right?
Yep, he's got the Baltic birch, and he sells maker packs of that specifically fit into dialed lasers, 15 by 15. I think he sells 12 packs for somewhere around 30 some $40 and ships it out. So that's one of my preferred mediums to use. I've been using this since my CO2 days and such. So definitely go check him out. I will hopefully be stopping by his place on this trip as well. So you'll probably see some stuff from him or from his shop on my channel in the coming weeks or so as well, because he's a fun guy and a good maker. So I should get that.
Greg, actually, yes. Our department we did away with. Now keep in mind too, it helps when you're one of the people that helps make the policies. But we did away with the whole not having a beard thing. We have, you know, as you know, there's a lot of guys that are coming out of the military that want to get into law enforcement, and beards are kind of important to them, as well as tattoos. Over the years, you know, you couldn't have tattoos that were visible and work in law enforcement. But because you've got society has changed, and some things that used to be unacceptable are now acceptable, we've kind of relaxed that policy, as long as it's tasteful. We still don't allow, you know, rude or obscene things on tattoos. But and as far as the beard is, you know, as long as it doesn't just get crazy, there are limitations, but we're very open to it as long as it's, you know, within society's norms, I guess you could say. Now, if somebody showed up with like one hanging down to their gun belt, probably not. It could be a safety issue, but we try to make it comfortable for the guys. And most of the people we deal with nowadays here in Alabama have a beard, so it's like if you don't have a beard, they don't think you're from Alabama. What's this? What am I annoyed about? No, I don't. Yes, I don't know who this is. I don't really actually remember. I've got a few people that message me a lot, and I try not to get frustrated or anything. I try to help people, but sometimes y'all don't get frustrated with me if I don't answer for a little while, because sometimes I have to just go dark because I do get a lot of messages over the internet, and there are days that I'm like, I got to put the phone down and step away for a little while. So y'all just don't be hating on me if you send me a message, and sometimes I'm a little delayed replying back to you.
Yeah, I tend to jump on the site and go through and try to get caught up and answer a few. Just kind of depends on the day and the week if I can get to them. But I do try to answer them as much as I can. But a lot of times people are in there answering for us. So
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that, Gray. But yeah, like I said, it's an evolving world. There are some things that we still don't allow, like some certain jewelry and stuff that could be grabbed or pulled. As far as like workers' comp related reasons, we don't allow some of that. But yeah.
Yeah, it definitely comes back down to still have to be safe with your occupation. So,
well,
I know
yeah,
in
I mean,
some
you don't
cases
want
with
you,
beards, as I say,
yeah,
some cases with beards, if they interfere with like putting on protective gear and such, they make you
yeah,
keep it trimmed a certain way and such. But
yeah. Well, when I used to do hazmat, when I was a hazmat tech, and so I was like going into meth labs and breaking them down, it wasn't an option, because you can't get a good seal on your apparatus if you've got facial hair. So I actually had to keep shaving cream and a razor in my kit so that if we got a meth lab, if it was one of those that, they're going in, it's an emergency, then a lot of times I just slap it on and go. But you have to keep a razor and shaving cream and even Vaseline in your kit. That way you could shave, put a little Vaseline on there to make sure you get that really good seal. Because a lot of those meth labs, the stuff that was, especially in the Red P days a few years ago, the stuff that thing emits, you catch a couple of good whiffs of it and you're in the floor hoping your buddies noticed that you went down, so so then I didn't have the beard. You wanted it slick and smooth, but as soon as I got to where I didn't do that anymore, I had to grow it out. So but yeah, there's a lot of reasons why you can't. And then when I was on the SWAT team too, I mean, when you gas a house and you go in with your gas mask on, if this doesn't let your gas mask seal, it's a really long time inside a house, full of CS gas, and you can't keep it out of your apparatus. So yeah, they have their disadvantages though, Pascal. Like I said, you go into a gas rich environment and you can't get a good seal on your gas mask. Your eyes are watering, you got snot running off your face and everything within the first 5 minutes, and life gets miserable. But yeah, Gray, when I retire completely, I plan on trying out for Duck Dynasty. I'm gonna let that thing grow. Steve is going to Steve's going to be envious of mine. Then, of course, it'll be curly because mine curls. All right, there's the laser question.
so yeah, Jim's talking about the P2 from X-Tool, and so that came out. Well, they did the launch a couple weeks ago now, and there are some things about it. So it has a automatic feed through, as well as kind of a dual camera setup to where it can adjust the laser head to follow a contour. Apparently, all the reviewers who got early models didn't get the copy of XCS that supported those in time for their initial reviews. I don't know if that's been released to them yet to do any testing. One thing I've noticed is that a lot of the reviews have been pretty light. There's been a couple of good ones out that go a little more in depth. I think Aurora Tech launched one just the other day that she went over some more of the specs, and I kind of agree with some of her takes on the cons to it. But I am still waiting to see more of more full in-depth reviews on that to see what really comes of it. But yeah, as of now, the cameras aren't supported in Lightburn, and the pass-through is not supported in Lightburn. So that being said, if you're not looking to use either of those two features and you really like using Lightburn, it might not be the laser for you because you're paying for those features. So
Yeah, that's what we said. Like what we were talking about earlier, though, with X Tool. You know, they want you to use their software. They don't want you messing with their machine. So, but if that's not a problem, hey, go. But if I was going to have those features, I would want them to work with Lightburn. I mean, why not? I mean,
I'd prefer them to, but I can also understand if they're kind of unique to that laser. I know Lightburn's going to want to work with them and try to make them work, but it is kind of a new function. So,
got a Comro Z1. I think he's saying that he tried the USB stuff. The only other thing, make sure your firmware is up to date and your settings in Lightburn as far as the communication are correct. What else can you think of, Steve?
double check your USB cable, I guess. Make sure that that's decent. I've had some. I just chucked one out today. As a matter of fact, that I noticed that it was intermittently connecting with one device. It would be fine with certain devices, but another device it would intermittently connect. So, yeah, it could if you've checked the USB control functions, and I would also double check your firmware. At that point, it could be something with the board. USB connections are pretty straightforward. So new USB cable on different laptops. Yeah, so I had a similar issue early on with the Ortura LaserMaster 3, and they actually, a number of people did. They ended up issuing a firmware update because of it, and that kind of took care of it. But if you're doing different laptops, I mean, when I had that problem, I even tried between Mac and Windows just to make sure it wasn't that kind of thing. But yeah, there's not too much more to troubleshoot on that, unfortunately.
Yeah, yeah. Sounds like he's pretty much run the gamut, except for maybe the firmware. Like I said, I would definitely check the firmware. You want to take this one? Because you do actually, I think you do more masking than I do.
Yeah, so I will use masking tape on like on pre-finished items. So I did a coworker of mine wanted a couple of pocket knives engraved, and they had walnut handles on them, and they were pre-finished. So I didn't want to have to do anything extra to damage it. I wasn't sure that the staining would come out because it was more of like an oil finish. It wasn't like a hard finish, so I really didn't want it soaking in. So in that scenario, I did use some masking to make sure that I didn't get anything outside of the actual engraving area. If it's raw wood and I know I can sand it, or if it's finished with a harder finish such as poly, then I might not use it, because then you should be able to just wipe it off with some alcohol. And or if it's raw wood, you can just sand it off. But anything where I'm concerned about the overburn, that's where I'll mask it. On my CO2, I've done it on clear acrylic because I didn't want anything I wanted to keep the clear acrylic clean. I didn't want to have to use any cleaners on it to mess or clean up any mess afterwards as well. But I don't use it a lot, but in cases where it's a pre-finished item that I want to take some extra care with, I'll do. So.
Yeah, if I'm going to be backfilling or spray filling or anything like that, that's about the only time that I'll mask. Now, if it was, like you said, if it was something that I didn't want to mess up the finish on, like I couldn't sand it down or anything, then I might do it. But I do, like I said, and I've tried the green tape instead of the blue. You'll be happy to hear. I went the other day and re-upped. I bought two things of the green and two things of the blue. And I plan on actually doing a little testing to see which one, engraves, cuts, burns better than the other. Just
yeah, I use the green for a couple of reasons. It actually tends to have a softer release than some of the blue, and so I like it for that. And also, the laser seems to interact with it better than the blue for physics reasons.
Yeah, I mean, it stands to reason blue's going to reflect a lot more of your laser, unless you were using a green laser.
Well, if you're using a green laser,
yeah. Oh, Yeah, troubleshooting sounds like the board maybe. Degrees. Thanks, Mark. We appreciate you. If you hadn't already, like, follow, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. And guys, one more time, a little shameless plug here. We've got our laser engraving community group. If you're not a member, go check that out. That's where I actually have been sharing my enclosure designs and some other stuff in there as well. And then we do a lot of questions and just show off what you can do and ask questions. A lot of knowledgeable folks in the group. So if that's something you're into, go check that out. And if you hadn't already, like, subscribe, follow, share. That helps support the channels, guys. Got to keep the lights on. Especially
Gonna have
when
to
this
keep the air conditioning
goes
on
in.
pretty soon.
Oh, man, I have put in some work to get this thing started. It's the Clack Shack there, Pascali, and I think I've got it.
I'm gonna drop it in my chat right now. So
yeah, or you can just go to my website, and that takes you pretty much to everything I have. But yeah, if you hadn't, guys, we appreciate it. Like I said, that's what it helps us help you. And I know that sounds, hard to understand, but it does help for us to like the machines that we get to try out and stuff like that. The more feedback we have from you guys, of course, the easier it is. And if you have any testing or questions that we haven't went over in videos, I know with me especially, there's times where I don't really have anything interesting to do a video with. So if you have those, drop it in the group, the Laser Engraver community group, or send me or Steve a message, or both, and just let us know that if you think this is something that would make an interesting video. We'll be more than glad to try to put that together for you, especially when we have those slow periods. Now, I think I can speak for both of them when I say the past 2 or 3 months we got slammed with review stuff. But it seems there's a lull coming. I don't know about you, Steve, but it seems to have slowed down temporarily. So if there's anything you want, let us know.
So yeah, I really like to try to not inundate the channel with just review after review after review. So I really try to make it a goal to, with each review project, I try to do a project video. And then I love always mixing in some of the testing, of, like we were talking earlier, the testing of methods on tile. And I had someone just today comment, hey, I really love to see the process of, creating your file or taking like a handwritten note and engraving it. And, having been a writer and a blogger and a podcaster or whatnot over times, I still get that whole writer's block where sometimes I can't get out of my own head to come up with that next good idea. And sometimes it's something very simple. Someone says, hey, can I just see this? And it's great to have that feedback and those ideas, because obviously we want to do things that people are curious and interested on. And it just helps add to the list of things that isn't just another laser review or product review. Those are the things I love doing as well, because we all learn with that. So if you have ideas, definitely throw them out there to us, and hopefully one of us can get to them.
Yeah, my wife will tell you my love of the laser engraving is those new things, doing things that I haven't done before. Once I do it one time, it's kind of like, okay, I've done that. And sometimes checking out these new machines gets that way. It's like, been there, done that. But yeah. It's the leather. Leather. I have tried some of the dyed leather that you buy, the multi-layered colored leather. It's hard for me to get away from just standard brown tool leather. I mean, that's my go-to. I try to, no frills. What about you, Steve?
I actually have played around more with the leatherette stuff, that multi-layered stuff. And once you kind of get it dialed in per color, it works really well. And actually, I have a friend who's messed around with both the small Monport K40 as well as the larger 100 and 140 watt laser. And he even made a comment. He's like, is this just easier with a diode? And I think in that specific scenario with that leatherette stuff, I think it is, because it doesn't take a lot of power for that. But yeah, I haven't. So I've played around with regular leather. Usually I get it kind of the color I want beforehand. And at most I might add like a leather oil afterwards. But I haven't really done much dyeing afterwards, so I can't really speak to if it's better to do it before or after. I guess it depends on how you might clean it up if you have some overburn, and whether that would affect the dye before or after would be kind of the concern I'd have of that. But I've actually I've used the leatherette quite a bit. I even made some gifts for my staff at work using it. I created some patches and added that to some leather bound books because I wasn't sure what kind of leather it was on the books, so I didn't want to engrave those. So I used the leatherette to put it onto the books as well, and that worked well. And I like it because it's thin, so it works well in that case. So
Jim said he
I'm glad you like
enjoyed your
that.
keychain video.
Yeah, I made a few of these for one of the videos. Just kind of, it was on a whim thing, needed to make a few, and so sometimes those videos are the fun, simple ones. As a matter of fact, today the video I was working on today with this little accessory thing, I was going to make it, and I said, stop, just set up, think through it, actually video it, and you can share the process with others. So sometimes that's my problem. Slow down, actually record it so I can share it as well. But
Yeah, the Lightburn tutorials. I've actually got a couple of things that I've been thinking about doing with Lightburn. I want to do, and this is kind of where I'm at with the name of the video. I want to do like, basically like a crash course in Lightburn so that you can, if you just got the software and you're just wanting to do basic stuff, you can, hopefully download the software, watch the video, and create some, just basic designs. And then I want to go and like basically do like Lightburn 101, 102, 103, 104, and end it like in node editing and node cutting and moving and stuff like that for like the end of the design part. But I've got to get caught up, guys. Like I said, I've been doing the air conditioner upgrades out here in the shack, and that is really important to me. Being in Alabama, having air conditioning out here is going to enable me to be in here more and not be drenched with sweat and do more stuff with you guys. And then in the wintertime, not that our winters are bad, Steve, before you object, I won't freeze to death. And Steve's like, freeze to death. It's like 30 up there. But it is 30's cold here, guys. But so as soon as I can get some room, I do plan on doing more on the way of Lightburn, screen capture. You might not get to see this as much, but I'm sure y'all can work through it. But yeah, now I will say this: Rich, he knows his way around Lightburn, so I got to give him that. And I've told my wife because she wanted to learn how. I told her to go watch Rich. So
yeah, and I've thought about that too because Rich is a good guy as far as sharing a lot of knowledge and such, and I do respect him quite a bit. And sometimes it's easy to go, oh, he's already got a video. But then I've also heard from other people, and I know myself too, sometimes you just delivering the same content in a little different style, maybe from a different viewpoint, connects with someone. And so I try not to flat out copy others, but just put my own spin on something. And so sometimes Clack and I might have similar videos out about things, or I've actually, if he's done one, I might wait to do mine as well, just to put a little space and difference between them. So I agree. I want to do more myself, just kind of how some tips and tricks on it, and I think that'll go over well.
Yeah. I can say that you can engrave blue jeans. Now, waiver. I don't know what long-term effect it will have on a pair of jeans that you wear. But it will. You can engrave denim blue jeans, and it will make a kind of a white, like almost like a Clorox bleached design on the material. But I will say that it would seem to me that that laser going through that material could cause like accelerated wear of the material, but you can do it, and it looks cool if you were doing like a purse or something. But I can't speak to the longevity of the material afterwards unless Steve's done it. Have you made a purse out of some blue jeans and engraved it, Steve?
No, I do need to get on that and get my bedazzling done before I come down to visit you. But no, I've seen some people get very creative with it, and I agree with you. I think there's a fine line between kind of taking the blue dye out of it and really weakening the fibers. So you know. But then again, I see people that are wearing jeans that are more ripped and holey than jean material. So
Yeah.
maybe that, you know, I, I think it's one of those things you got to play with it and then see. You know, that's the gotcha with some of the stuff. Here's how to do it, and here's how it works. But how does it hold up? You know, 5, 6, 7 months later after you've washed it 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, I think what you would have to do is basically run a power grid test. And of course, not all denim's going to be the same. I mean, you could technically go, these are Levi's or these are whatever, but I think you would have to do a power test and run the lowest possible power to get the color. I don't think you want to overkill, because I do think it would, you know, inevitably cause the material to fail. So oh. Yeah, Merrill, like I said, I know I'm different. My style and Steve's style are different. Okay. I know people that can't stand to listen to me because I'm a redneck. I talk fast. I move fast. I'm not very detailed. I'm more of the, this is what I got, this is how I make it work kind of guy. And I know people that, you know, would prefer Steve over me because Steve is more detailed. He is more well spoken. His vocabulary is a little better. His beard looks better. So you know, I agree that different people with the same material, like Steve said, I'm going to do more of that. I'm just right now, I'm just kind of waiting on the opening to do so.
And
But
and one thing you can do on YouTube is if you go into the little gear icon, you can actually change the playback speed. So if you drop that down by 25%, or in some cases increase it by 20 to 50%, it can change that to something more tolerable as well. So sometimes just playing with that on YouTube, the playback speed will help with that. But
yeah, I'm not going to call anybody out, but there's a couple of channels that I have to watch in like 125% speed. I'm just,
it's
and I
mine,
have to
isn't it?
caffeinate.
It's
No,
me,
it's not
right?
yours. It's not your. But I'm not going to mention it. But I have a slow, guys. I have a really very very short attention span, and if you hesitate too much, I tell my kids all the time, because you know how these younger kids, they when they're telling a story, they like pause. I don't know if it's like a pause for, you know, suspense or what, but I'm like, if you pause more than 3 seconds, you've lost me, and I'm off to the next subject. So you know, but yeah. Oh,
That's
yeah. Okay. This is Jason. That's who that is. I was fixing to say, he said he was messaging me a lot. And Jason, yes, you actually have been messaging me quite a bit. But he has an 8-SIR pump that's doing like a little squeal almost. And I checked
mm,
mine. Mine does not make that noise. But they've sent him another one. And the one that he got, the second one he got, is still doing the squealing. And it may just be something in the mechanics of it. But, you know, it does definitely, it makes a different noise than mine does. So. Oh,
so Jay was
uh,
asking about. Oh, sorry, did I
oh.
just bump yours off?
Yeah,
There we
well,
go.
Beaver Creek, I think Beaver's thinking we're not seeing them, but Beaver sometimes, uh, I don't know I don't know if they're disappearing or not, but I have been seeing your comments, and I'm trying to reply when I can. So,
Yeah. Um,
but I see you.
so colored tiled, I've played around with a few different ones. And yeah, usually I have to put like, you know, the tempera paint on there to get the diode laser to interact with it. Not so much with the CO2, but generally with that, you're going to have the color on the top, and then if it's a porcelain tile, it's going to end up being white underneath. So you can kind of play around with that. But generally, yes, I've, you know, just some tempera paint, brushed on or sprayed on evenly, should work just fine to do some playing in that arena.
No, Jeff, it wasn't a pinched hose, because he took the hose off of it and put it on it. I thought it was. We tried everything. Power supplies. We swapped power supplies. I mean, it's, I don't know. It's a unique whine. It's like a whining. It's almost like a, if there's any mechanics in the room, it's almost like a power steering pump that's just a little bit low of power steering fluid.
Hmm.
I mean, that's what
I'll
it sounds like. Oh,
have to plug mine in again and run it and see if it's similar. Because
yeah. I mean, it
I
wasn't.
remember thinking the Acer pump was very similar to the Atom Stack, but I remember noticing a different noise to it than the Atom Stack. So
Yeah. Yeah, Beaver, I am very slow about reading, and these things kind of fly through this little box that me and Steve have to look at, so we could miss you, but I'm trying. Uh,
I'm going to let you take this one. I have to step away for just a minute.
all right. I can make one-offs and projects making. Actually, I already have that, Viking. That's kind of my thing. Multiple items is kind of what got my channel. Whoa, what the heck? Hang on, I'm trying to get Steve's little. I'm trying to get Steve's little screen fixed here. He's done thrown the black screen of death on me. But I make a jig kit that works really well for that, and I'm gonna put Steve in timeout down here until he gets back. There we go. But I make a jig kit, and you can probably see a bunch of them propped up on the wall over here. That especially if it's the same item, then you're doing because I do like I've got one order right now for like 150 cuts, which cuts are different than engraves, but I use a jig kit. Anything that I'm going to be doing repeat, like hundreds of them or 50 or 60 of them, I use a jig. I build a jig file and I put that thing in there and run it over and over and over. If you'll go to my channel and look at my videos and just search the word jig, you'll see plenty of videos about how I go about setting up for business cards, coasters, stuff like that. And it makes it easy. Don't overcomplicate it, guys. I'm not talking bad about anybody as far as trying to set a point of origin and lining the laser up with a point of origin or anything like that. But if you will just use the home position, home the machine before the job, load the jig file, and run the frame, confirm that the frame is correct, because sometimes you may get a little deviation, not much. Make any changes that you need to make. If you use a return to location instead of going home after every burn, you can run 50, 60, 80 of those things, and it will just continually hit the same spot every time. How do you save the power settings? When you save the file, Gray, it should save the power settings with the file. So if you open that file, it will have the appropriate the power settings that you had in there last should still be in there, because I get messed up on that a lot of times because I have 5.5 watt, 10 watt, 20 watt, and 33 watt machines and a 40 watt mon port. So I have to be careful when I open a file because it may be one I created on a 30 watt and I'm fixing to run it on a 5.5, and so I have to go in and change those settings. But yeah, uh, yeah, try to use the home, and like I said, Mark, once you home it, use the go-to location after a burn to avoid, like Steve said, those limit switches, although they are good, they can have some inconsistent. Oh, I gotta fix that. You're on the wrong side, Steve. They can have some deviation. I don't know why that matters, but it's just like that's why we've always done it. But yeah. No, Jason, it's cool, dude. Here's the way you look at it. If I ain't got time to answer you, I won't. I mean, and I'm not trying to hurt anybody's feelings, but I do have to step away sometimes. But I also enjoy helping people. That is why I started my YouTube channel. So I don't mind helping. But sometimes I do get busy, so don't get angry with me if I don't reply promptly, because I do stay very, very busy. What do you think of I seen this one, just missed it. Longer array, 5, 10 watt. Well, the one in the middle, that that one in the middle is a longer array 5. Now, accuracy, power, it's as good as any 10 watt out there. It's comparable power output to that ASMR P1, which I was pretty impressed with the power output of it. The only thing you need to know about the longer is it has no limit switches whatsoever. So if that's a deal breaker for you, you may want to look elsewhere. But now, if you're doing a lot of stuff from current position, like if you're doing tumblers or anything with a rotary, or if you're doing everything from current position, it runs great. It's really fast. It's smooth, and I like it. But you're going to lose some functionality because it has like zero bells and whistles, no drag chain, no air assist, no limit switches, no nothing. It's got 2-stepper motors, a screen, which is actually pretty cool. It is Wi-Fi connectable, and a module. That's it. I mean, it brings takes simplicity to a whole new level. Because I'd have way too many file folders, and I would get lost. I would get so lost. You don't understand how many machines come through here.
Yeah,
I've already got
I think
very big. Go ahead.
I was going to say the average person that's doing this is probably playing around with 1, maybe 2 lasers, and so they're it's not a big deal to keep, maybe separate files or whatnot. But after a while, I try to just keep my references for my test grids and base my layers off of that I know if it's a cut for this type of material, I need to adjust it to those settings. So that's where having a notepad or a spreadsheet or your material libraries for various videos can be helpful, or for various machines, I should say. Yeah, it can get still a little confusing after you get that long list of machines in Lightburn that you've tested, that keeping them straight.
Diplomatic statement? What's I've never really been referred to as diplomatic. I don't know what he's talking about.
Maybe it was the if I don't have time, I just won't answer it.
Oh, well, I mean, I'm just honest, guys. There's one thing that you can say about me. I'm gonna be honest with you, and I'm not trying to hurt anybody's feelings. That's just me. I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
I do get busy sometimes.
I'm similar. I try to answer most comments on YouTube and such, but sometimes they're just if they're way out of left field, I might just let them sit. Yeah, but I do try to get back to most of them.
Yep. All right, there's one. I knew somebody was going to ask, and Beaver has came through. What do you think about the 2 rotaries? Because well, wait a minute. There it is. The rotary that we tested, which you have you got your Acer one yet?
It has shipped. It'll probably arrive, so you haven't
received it
the day before I leave. But I did take I took the Atom stack out of the box and looked at it because that's my next step. I've tested the machine. That video will be coming out pretty soon. I need to play with the Atom stack rotary, and but yeah, I've so from my experience, I've had the RA2 for well over a year. That was one that I was kind of lucky enough to get pre-release on, and then most recently the Ortour Chuck rotary was the latest one I tested. Besides that, so then got the Atom stack that is in the box, and the Acer is in the mail.
Well, I'll save you a little bit of guesswork. When you test the Atom stack, you can that's basically the Acer. I'm just going to be honest with you. I cannot, other than some cosmetic differences, I cannot find a difference in them. There are there's a slightly different color, and there's some slightly different lines in some of the body work, but the nuts and bolts of it, they both work almost identical. So
going along with that, there's the IKEA laser that's coming out, which is kind of like it's been said that it's kind of the high end line of Atom stack, and if you look at both, the Atom stack camera and the IKEA camera, they're the same thing. They're just labeled different. Here you also have the Acer looking very similar to Atom stack with their rotaries, and I believe the IKEA rotary as well is going to look very similar. So there's some interesting threads that are kind of coming together on some of those, that very minor differences. And it'll make it interesting comparing and contrasting them. But
Yeah. Well, have you seen the new iCure laser?
Mm-hmm.
That it looks a lot like the new Acer laser.
I've actually
So
known about that one a lot longer than the new Acer. So that's, you
yeah.
know, interesting. So
trouble.
I was just reading. Well, put a pair of glasses on and take it off.
Well, yeah. I tossed mine. Now the Acer, I actually had to sand down the little tip that comes off the bottom of the cone because you know I don't know why they made that thing stick down so far, but they did. Oh, and I sanded about 1/8 of an inch off of mine the other day because it caught a piece of wood on one of those long engraves that I did that takes up like this whole sheet of wood. It caught on one of the little pieces that popped up, and it sounded like a train wreck inside that enclosure. And so the next time, matter of fact, I shut the machine down and went and cleaned it and shortened the nozzle and made a video. But
Now,
yeah, if I could make it any shorter, I would.
I don't know if you looked closely at the Atom Stack 830 cone, but it's got some interesting stuff going on in there.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah,
I showed off in my video that I need to finish off and get released in a day or two. But I kind of like that design, but it might limit how much you can shave that cone down.
yeah, yeah. It's but now that I will say that machine, man, have you really played with the how deep that thing will go before the focus like starts getting out of whack?
Well, sneak preview, I cut through 3/4 inch pine.
Mm-hmm. The focus on
pretty
that one.
clean,
So what I'm saying is if you had a problem with that, you could lift that thing up, extra couple of millimeters out of focus
Mhm.
and still have plenty of penetration for 1/4 inch, 3/8 inch material. So yeah, that thing was impressive. I will say. Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like a train wreck happening in there. And you're like, oh my gosh. And see, my biggest thing, it wasn't that I just ruined a piece of plywood. I was imagining in my head belts snapping, things twisted and getting out of adjustment. And I'm like, man, this has just destroyed my machine. But yeah.
So now take that with a CNC machine with a bit that grabs the wood that's now come unattached from whatever holding fixture you have. That'll wake you up.
Turns into a propeller.
Well, no, it turns into a lot of smoke and a lot of really bad noise, but yeah. So
Lightburn doesn't freeze. Go ahead.
Yeah. I was just looking at that one. So do you let it finish homing? I mean, what I would do is I would bring up the console window and hit the home button and watch the console within Lightburn and see what it's saying in there. Sometimes if you try to send a second command or something tries to send a second command while it's doing it, I've seen that kind of hang it up. Otherwise, it's create a new profile, reset up the laser on a new profile, see if maybe it's just got something messed up on it. My first time I had my Acer, I was calling Clack going, what is wrong with this thing? And we were comparing files and that's what it kind of came down to, was just kind of wipe and reload that machine profile. And then it was been rock solid ever since. But I have had a few where they get hung up on a command and I've had to reboot the machine and or Lightburn to get it to recommunicate. So
yeah, some of these machines are a little slower, like when you home them and it shows the communications. Some of these machines are just a little bit slower about, kind of resuming to normal operation. Oh, I have noticed that. But typically 2 or 3 seconds and they're fine. But yeah, Jason's working on building himself a enclosure Zilla, but he's in a basement with limited headroom, so he's entertaining door options if you have any ideas for that.
Well, folding doors that go out to the sides, I guess.
Or you could get really creative and make one like the old pantries that rolls, or a garage door.
The roll top ones. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Somebody like yourself that has a CNC could probably make that, easy.
Which machine?
Which machine? We like sync that up.
Yeah, some machines use fairly standard style extrusions, and at most you might need to modify plates or drill new holes. But get really creative. You can recreate the whole gantry and rail system, and then just bolt your controller onto it. But generally, if you're not too into tinkering around with a lot of stuff, I would stick with what's available. So, like Sculpt Fun has theirs that'll double in both directions to 960 millimeter square. But that's bigger, but that doesn't mean you couldn't cut them down to your size and then just adjust your software to fit.
Yeah. Now, if you wanted one that was that big, if you're the Niji Max, I will say this: that Niji Max for out of the box machine, I think it has the largest work area of any machine I've tested so far. And they actually make an extension rail for that thing, which I think extends it to 8 something by 8 something, which would be more than 24 by 24. But I'm supposed to have a set of those extensions coming, but I haven't seen them yet. Let's see where I don't know what they advertise it as. 1150 millimeter. Wow.
That's pretty big.
Jeez. Yeah. So, yeah. But the Niji would probably be, it's got a work area of, I think, around 17 or 18 inches by 30 inches straight out of the box. But now it's going to be one of those machines that you need to like to tinker. So it's not like the X tool where it comes, already put together and all that. You're going to be putting it together.
So Gray's asking about a wish list for Lightburn, and they actually do have a section on their forums, and I'll put that into the chat, where they have kind of a voting system where people can suggest features for Lightburn, and then people can go and vote on them. So, that is there. Mine, one of mine that I love to have is guides that you can drop in as you're designing. So in CAD, normally I can drag from the ruler, put it in a guide, and then I can reference off that. So if I want to put another guide 3/4 of an inch over from that, I can, and do it both horizontally and vertically. And I've gotten used to that in both my drawing design software as well as my CAD software. So that would be something I would love to see them incorporate, so that you could just take that mentality of design into it rather than using their tool layer so much. That would be a more simple one that I would like to see implemented. Do you have any feature requests you'd love to see?
I still like the idea that we talked about with being able to use multiple cameras to increase the accuracy. That would be the big one.
A good one, yeah. That would be, yeah.
Yeah. Where you could have 2 cameras, and then when you set up everything, it would have a little bit better algorithm to ensure a little more accuracy. Yep. Of course, it would cost you twice as much because you'd have to buy 2 cameras, but
but I think if you could improve that camera accuracy on the laser, and if it was another inexpensive camera, they're not terribly bad, to really dial in that accuracy, then that would make that feature so much better.
Yeah, because that's the only thing. I think sometimes people get misled by the fact that this camera is going to be just spot on every time, and in reality, it's not. It's a very, very useful tool, but it's not the end all to framing by any means.
So all I got to say to this is 42.
42?
Mm-hmm.
What's the meaning of life?
If you know, you know.
Huh? Okay. I don't know. Was that George W. Bush?
No. I'm not going to tell you because I'm waiting to see if anybody else gets it. If not,
hey, you know I'm terrible with numbers. But anyway, guys, we're getting ready to wrap it up here. I don't want to keep Steve up too late. I know he has a curfew and has to be in bed. So if you have any last minute questions or anything we overlooked, and guys, if we overlooked your questions, don't get mad and call us bad names or anything. We try to keep up best we can. Sometimes they slip through because it is very quick. I've tried talking my wife into being like a moderator of sorts to where she could like sit in there and watch for questions and throw them up on the screen for us. I haven't had any success with that yet.
I'm guessing a couple people got it.
Well, so what was it?
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Oh, that's why. I don't. Yeah, not something I'm familiar with.
It's a good book. But yeah, there's this big computer that's developed by this ancient alien civilization, and it was asked to compute the meaning of life, and it took billions of years to figure out, and that was the answer. It's 42.
Yeah, 2 pitches on that one.
All right. 2.
I guess they're talking to you and just accidentally put S because I'm not really a nerd. You are. I'm not really a nerd. Oh, but yeah, if you haven't already, guys, go check it out. Check out the Laser Engraving community page, Steve's Facebook, my Facebook, Steve's YouTube, my YouTube, all that good stuff. And next Sunday night, we're going to have a treat for you guys. So if you can, you need to be here because we very well may get to see Steve, I don't know, run a sawmill. Have you ever ran a sawmill, Steve? Have you ever took a log and made wood, like made lumber?
So I've been around them. I have not actively participated in the operation of them.
Okay, well, we may be making making some lumber. He definitely is going to get to try some good old Southern cuisine. So far, the list that I have compiled is grits, chitlins, mountain oysters, chicken and dumplings, and a hot hamburger. So I hope you're hungry when you get here.
Well, I've had some of those. So
you know what mountain oysters are?
That's
you don't
not
know what
one
mountain oysters are.
I don't. If I've had them, they weren't called that. So, do I want to know?
No, you don't want to know. They're better with hot sauce. Let's just put it that way.
All right. Yeah.
All right.
Well,
I'll let you do your sign off thing.
Because
that whole.
I was trying to figure out what
Gray knows what they are.
I was going to try to figure out what sort of Minnesotan cuisine I could taunt you with, but it really comes down to tater tot hot dish and lutefisk. So
Luda what? Ludicrous?
Lutefisk. Lutefisk.
I don't know what that is. That's kind of like my buddies from Louisiana with the boudin balls.
It's fish, and that's what I'll leave it as. But
okay.
Anyway,
well, if it's fish, I'm good with it.
Oh, I don't think you would be.
Okay, maybe I'm not. I'm not. I have to research that.
Yeah, no, trust me, I wouldn't even eat it. But anyway, thanks everyone for stopping by tonight. It's great seeing everyone here. Please like and subscribe to both channels. Comment on videos, join the group. That's really why we do all this, is the community and the fun. So that interaction is what really makes it really that much more enjoyable. So next week it should be interesting. We'll see how it goes, and looking forward to it.
Oh, they want you to eat some crawfish. You ever ate crawfish?
Oh yeah, sure. We got that up here too.
Oh,
I've had low country boil down there.
I have to call in some favors. We'll get some Cajun food up here for you too. All right, guys. Good night and have a good day. Like I said, save your content questions and everybody get ready for next week. And same as always. Yes, we're hoping Steve has a good trip. And I actually am entertaining the idea of maybe making a day trip over to Georgia just to see what all the fuss is about at this event. But we'll see. See, it depends on how my work week goes, if I can get off. But anyway, guys, y'all have a good night and stay safe.